Yugi Bros!
What's up, my Yugi Bros? It's Connor. Little disclaimer before we start this video. This week's weekly giveaway item is a match of the Millennium Starter Deck. All you have to do to enter said giveaway is both like this video and all other videos with the weekly giveaway item on the sidebar of said video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, of course, and last but not least, answer the daily question provided that is randomly placed in each video promoting said giveaway. But with that out of the way, now back to your regularly scheduled content. What's up, Yugi Bros? It's Connor with another duel video for you guys today. Kind of a blast from the past. We're doing Amazons versus Gravekeepers. I'm playing Amazons, the opponent is playing GKs, and let's get into the video, shall we? We have elected to go second. I believe we won that. Sometimes I forget watching these replays. Alright, so they are playing Inner Conflict, brand new skill from Twisted Nightmares, the Bakura skill. It says activates this skill during your main phase. Once per duel, you can pay half your life points and take control of one monster your opponent controls until the end phase, but it cannot attack directly this turn. Very powerful skill. I would argue this is one of the 3 best skills of the 8 that were revealed out of these 2 decks. It's probably one of the best skills in the game currently, in my opinion, but of course, I'll leave that up to you, depending on what you like the best. We are playing Switcheroo. We're playing Amazons. We're not playing the tribal package. We're playing the old school Amazon deck. And back in the day, you would play Destiny Draw, so that once you went under 2,000 life points, you'd add any card in for your draw phase. I like this card better, obviously. I think this is just better Destiny Draw in most cases. Being able to shuffle one card from your hand to your deck to draw a card twice per duel is really good. Fixes consistency issues, so we elected to do that instead. They are starting off. They opened with Ambusher, the brand new Allure of Darkness to speed duels. I still can't believe I'm saying that. Dust Tornado and Rite of Spirit, and we opened Amazoness Trainee, Floodgate Trap Hole. Good old Amazoness Heirloom for anyone that remembers this from the OG days of Speed Duels. I can't believe there's already OG days of Speed Duels. And Kunai with Chain. Speed Duels has been out for, I think, a year and a half now. I think it came out really late 2018 or beginning of 2019, so it's almost been a year and a half basically now. It's crazy to think that. So they're going to kick off, they're going to YOLO the Allure with only 1 Dark Monster in hand. Not sure if I would have done this. They did end up banishing their only monster, and now they're stuck with 2 Rites and 2 Dust Tornadoes. It's debatable. I think Allure is actually a little overrated in this. Even me just saying, oh, I can't believe Allure's in the game. Allure is great, don't get me wrong, but in a game where you're only playing 20 card decks, and something like Gravekeepers was already very consistent with his recruiters anyways, Allure of Darkness just almost, I wouldn't say it's not necessary, but I think it adds, I think like if you're playing too many, you might just be in a situation like this one, for example, where to compensate the amount of Allures you're playing, you'd have to play more Gravekeepers, and that might saturate the deck. So I'm not actually sure. I think 2, I've said this in past videos, I think 2 Allure is actually the standard way to go in most Speed Duel decks, if you're going to play it. I definitely wouldn't say not to play it in something like this. Like, everything's dark, so it makes sense. So they're going to go ahead and set both Dust Tornadoes and pass. Both those Rite of Spirits are dead. We opened a pretty solid hand. We're going to normal summon Trainee, set our Dust Tornado, set our Floodgate, set our Kunai. And we don't feel any need to play Switcheroo yet. We kind of have everything. We'll use these to kind of bait out their stuff. Our Dust Tornado will hopefully bait out one of their cards. We don't know they have 2 Dust Tornadoes, of course. But and then we'll have Trainee swing in here for 1,500. So they'll draw into Recruiter. They're going to set that, set a Rite of Spirit, and pass. It's a good bluff, but also when this dies, they can bring it back right away, so that always makes sense. I'm going to draw into Swordswoman here. We could use Switcheroo, but I still don't see the reason to. This deck is really good at keeping its advantage, and every card in it has a very good utility piece to itself. Same kind of actually goes for Gravekeepers. So I feel like there's no real reason to use Switcheroo yet, so we're going to just summon Swordswoman. We're going to swing in here. And it's Recruiter. We figured it would since we knew it was Gravekeepers. 15 and 15 wouldn't do too much. We're going to ask if anything about for the damage step because we have good old Kunai with Chain down. And pumping this up by 500 will allow us to get over this, and this card sends things it destroys by battle to the bottom of the deck, therefore Recruiter won't trigger. That's what we're trying to go for here. They're going to YOLO Dust Tornado on one of our 3 back rows. And I believe they did like a 2-4-6, yeah, going this direction, so they hit the Floodgate Trap hole. And then they're going to YOLO the second Dust Tornado. Really ballsy move, but I do understand it. You have a 2 out of 3 chance, assuming there's only 1 kunai down. You might as well take it. And this time they hit the kunai, and we can't do anything with our Dust Tornado except pop their card, but we figure we'll wait instead. And yeah, that means our monsters crash and don't do anything. So good move on their part. They draw into the 3rd Rite of Spirit. Now, back to what I was saying before with Allure of Darkness. I feel like in Gravekeepers, you actually should probably just play 2 Rite of Spirit. I understand maximizing your Call of Haunted, but early game, you do get stuck into situations like these where sometimes they can be kind of faulty. So, you know, give or take as you will. They will, however, activate their skill Inner Conflict, and this will actually go the distance for them. They pay $12.50 and take our trainee. And we can't Dust Tornado anything. This is a skill. We can't. It's out of play. And they're going to have their monster crash our monster. So what this prevents them from doing is they can take control of the monster, but that monster can't attack directly this turn. However, it's not attacking directly. It's attacking another monster, which is why I really like this skill. In addition to attacking another monster, you can just get something out of the way. Against Amazon, it's actually really good when you have stuff equipped with, like Heirloom, for example. They could take our monster, equip the Heirloom, and just swing directly with other things with this skill. So it's really cool. It's not like we take half battle damage or whatever for the rest of the turn. It's just that monster specifically can't attack directly. But no problem here, as they have it crash the monsters, and Recruiter will go in for 1200. So really like that skill. Definitely be seeing that in the future. It's got a lot of upside, I think. Paying half your life means it's always alive, and taking anything for free means you can do a lot. So we draw into Village. We have Village, Heirloom, and Dust Tornado. Sounds to me like we should use our switcheroo. I'd rather keep Village for recurring plays rather than the Heirloom in case they get rid of our monster. So we'll shuffle in, and we draw Sage. So this actually works really well to our advantage since they have 2 back row and Recruiter. That Sage can safely swing over even without the Village, but we have the Village to boot. So we're going to normal or after activating our Village, and we're going to swing into Recruiter here. They're going to ask, do we have anything before damage step, which is the common theme I feel like in Yu-Gi-Oh these days, Speed Duels especially. We could YOLO Dust Tornado in case they have a kunai, but we don't really care if this dies because we have Village now, which means we could just get another, if we wanted to, we can get another Sage or we could get something else. So we're not going to do anything. They don't actually have anything, or if they did, they didn't feel like doing it. We know they don't because they have rights, but that's beside the point. It's a good way to bluff your opponent too. So Sage and Recruiter. Sage will target the middle, I think, or not the middle. Yeah, okay. And Recruiter will add Oracle. Interesting choice. I probably would have grabbed Ambusher, but the only reason is I get that they, even though Sage is going to pop one of these, they'll get the other one, and then Oracle could summon the next turn. But if they get rid of this, like put this down to 0, have Oracle swing over it, we're still alive, and we're going to summon Swordswoman, and assuming these don't stop the Swordswoman swing into Oracle the following turn, they just straight lose. And I don't think they realized it until their next turn, and I'll show you what I mean in a second here. They add, or they draw into a Recruiter, they Rite of Spirit this Recruiter. We have Dust Tornado, so we're just going to wait on it. And where you would normally then see the tribute for the Oracle, they actually just set a monster and pass. They don't even set the Rite of Spirit, which makes sense because if we pop beforehand, before they have a monster in the graveyard, they're not going to get any use out of it. So makes sense, but I think if they had done the Ambusher, would have been a safer play to go from the get-go. And, you know, they wouldn't be stuck in this defensive situation here. We're going to draw into Dust Tornado. We're going to switcheroo it because they don't have any back row. We have this other Dust Tornado just in case they ever draw back row. So we hit Floodgate Trap Hole. Good. So we have more defenses. We're going to have Sage swing over. Keep in mind, it's boosted by 200 points. So it's actually at 1,600. It's going to get over this Recruiter by 100. And then we'll go ahead and this time they will search the Ambusher. Better late than never. And then we will pass. They'll draw Kunai with Chain. So they're building back up on their defenses. They're going to normal summon the Ambusher, but guess what, guys? We have a Floodgate Trap Hole. However, I don't feel the reason to use it yet, because if this dies, like I said, we'll just get another card with Village. So we might as well save it. We know they have the Oracle in hand. If they're gonna go for a big finish move, we'd rather keep the Floodgate for that. So they'll have Ambusher swing over our monster for 100, and we will just have Village replace it with another one from the deck. End phase, we're gonna YOLO Dust Tornado here. We don't have to do this, but I understand the logic here is we know they have actually, no, we do not have, no, they have a third Rite of Spirit. But if they do have another Rite of Spirit, we would like to get rid of it now. They set both these cards at the same time. So, just gives us a little extra headway. I think that was kind of more of a YOLO play on my part. Probably didn't need to do that. We've been playing the entire game really control-based. Why go for a little bit out of the way of a little less control, so to speak? They have 850. It's not like we're in a really desperate situation. But we do pop the third Rite of Spirit. So at least, we got rid of that. We draw into Trainee, which is so really good here. Knowing that's a Recruiter, however, we're going to have Sage swing in because it'll get over for 100, and then we use Sage's effect to destroy this face down. But go figure, the face down is Kunai with Chain. They will pump up their Ambusher, and they will switch our Sage to defense mode. Man, this is old Speed Duel days. Old Speed Duel. Trainee gets over it because it's at 1700, so it shuffles it back into the deck. Or, I'm sorry, it puts it at the bottom of the deck. They draw into Ambusher. And this is where we'll flip the Floodgate. If we didn't do that, they would be in a situation where they could get rid of this, and even if we summoned another Sage, they could get rid of the other Sage with the other one's attack. So if we Floodgate, it sets us up perfectly to have this swing over this in the following turn to get rid of this. Now, keep in mind, they will get rid of this through Village's effect, but we have one Sage left in the deck. So they'll do that, they'll get rid of the Sage, we'll replace the Sage with another Sage, and everything is set up for the end. We're going to switch Sage to attack, set our Kunai that we drew, is a really good draw. We're going to have Sage swing over the flipped face down Ambusher, Sage will pop the Kunai, and then we'll have our Trainee crash. The Trainee actually doesn't crash here, it's actually 200 points stronger because it killed a monster by battle last turn. So that's actually should have just done 200 and put him at 650. Then I use Village here and I summon the Swordswoman. We figured that out quickly right after the game as we were siding. However, we came to the conclusion that this was still definitely going to be game. Not this turn, but the following turn. No matter what they drew, wasn't going to get them back into the game. So I apologize for that. Definitely a mix-up on our parts, but we still definitely concluded that the game would have been ours. We have so much advantage. Gravekeepers really can't do anything once you get them into the situation or you back themselves into a corner like this. And we had a Kunai to boot, so... Going into Game 2. Amazon still got it, guys. I want to say, sure, I don't think it's the best deck, but it definitely has a lot of spunk. And I gotta say, it could still pull off some wins. So, going into Game 2, we open Trainee, Floodgate, Heirloom, and Sage. They open Kunai, Offerings to the Doomed, Allure of Darkness, and Ambusher. Offerings to the Doomed, another new card from the new decks. This one says target a face-up monster on the field. Destroy that target. Also escape your next draw phase, and it is a quick play spell. Keep in mind, that makes this card really, really viable, especially in something like Speed Duels. They've opted to go second, so we're going to set our Floodgate and we're going to pass. No reason to summon a monster for them to get rid of it. I feel like we can kind of just sit back. Yes, they could have a Floodgate and we could get sucked into that in the future, but we figure we'll take our chances. We got our own Floodgate, so it's not like their game's going to go real quick. They draw into Rite of Spirit. They summon Ambusher. They're not going to YOLO the Allure like they did last game, which again explains to me perfectly. I did ask them afterward what they sided out. They said they sided out. They were playing 2 Allure. They sided out an Allure for this game, but they drew the 1 of Allure in this game. Go figure. So it ends up kind of just being dead early, but they're going to set their Kunai and their Offerings to the Doomed. Keep in mind, they don't have to set this. If we had a monster, they could keep it and use it in the battle phase. I know that's relevant to this situation, but that's why I think this card's just so damn good as a quick play. So they'll set this too. They'll have Ambusher swing it for 1700. We didn't Floodgate. I know we could have. I just felt like we'll let it go. We'll keep this for something bigger. We have Heirloom, so we'll have Heirloom get rid of this if we need to the following turn. We also still have Switcheroo's effect plus whatever we draw. I figure we got a lot of defenses for this, so we don't have to worry about too much. I'm going to draw into Dust Tornado. Normal summon our Sage. Equip it with Heirloom. Set a face down, and we're going to swing in for Battle Phase, but they'll flip the Offerings to the Doomed. And another reason, guys, I tell you, this card is just so damn good. Something in this situation where you have your monster and your Heirloom, two very powerful cards, this gets rid of both of them in one fatal swoop, and all of a sudden puts us on the defensive. Now I really wish we flipped that Floodgate Trap Hole last turn. They don't draw off because Offerings, but that's okay. If you have enough advantage where Offerings gives you that advantage, you don't necessarily need the draw to continue playing the game. They're going to set the Rite of Spirit and YOLO the Allure of Darkness. They're going to hit Recruiter and Kunai, so that'll banish the Recruiter, but they get the Kunai, which is nice for them. And they're going to swing in here for 1,700. All of a sudden, we're at 600, and I really, really wish we used Floodgate Trap Hole. Sometimes I play too conservatively, guys. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. We normal summon Train E. They have 3 back row. Rite of Spirit, Kunai with Chain, and Kunai with Chain. We're going to put Heirloom on it and pray to God they don't have another Offerings to the Doomed. And we're going to swing in here. They will flip Kunai, however, boosting their monster and switching our monster to defense mode, stalling them out. But that's fine. We can Dust Tornado the Kunai, however, that's not going to stop this card because it's not a continuous to on the original effect there. But even if it did, they had another Kunai anyway that they could have changed, so I guess it didn't really make a difference. They're going to draw Dust Tornado. They're going to activate Inner Conflict. Here's another perfect example of this card. Taking the monster will not net them the ability to attack with it because we don't have another monster, but it does get it out of the way. Sure, they had the Dust Tornado, they could have waited a turn or two, but against Amazons, you kind of don't want to wait that long. So they're going to get rid of the monster just to swing in directly here, and we don't have a response to that. We have a Dust Tornado. So we really wish we used this Floodgate Trap Hole. Alright, game 3 though. Uh-oh, the video has been paused. Well, seems like a perfect time to unveil the weekly giveaway question. And that question is, guys, out of all the Speed Duel cards currently in this game thus far, what is your favorite Speed Duel card? Leave your answer in the comments down below. And now back to the video. When in doubt, they go first, the Gravekeeper, they summon anything, Floodgate. Just Floodgate. Just do it. Just do it. Alright. Game 3, we opened Amazonas Village, Kunai with Chain, and Offerings to the Doomed. They opened Offerings to the Doomed, Dust Tornado, Kunai with Chain, and Gravekeeper's Ambusher. We elected them to go first. Like I said, both these decks are really cautious on going first. However, Gravekeepers can play it better than Amazon. Amazon likes to kind of set up, or Amazon likes to kind of like play off what your opponent does. So they're going to set their Dust Tornado. They're going to set their Offerings to the Doomed. They're going to set their Kunai, and they actually summon Ambusher. And I figured the reason for that mainly was just so we don't Floodgate it in the following turn, which makes sense. They're going to pass. We're going to draw. We draw Swordswoman. So we're going to activate Village. We're going to normal summon Swordswoman. We're going to flip Switcheroo, ditch one of these Kunais for something else just to see what we can get. Hit another Swordswoman. Cool. We'll set Offerings and we'll set Kunai. Now we'll go to Battle Phase and we'll swing. This is a perfect example of where I kind of wish I kept Offerings to the Doomed in my hand. This is where Offerings to the Doomed in hand during the battle phase can actually be really, really relevant. Since you know they're not going to OTK you because it's Gravekeepers in most senses anyways, keeping this in your hand early game is not a terrible thing. And now I wish I did that, because they flip Dust Tornado when I attack to get rid of the village. If we had kept this in our hand, our monster wouldn't have been forced to then attack into this. We could have destroyed it and then kept our Swordswoman alive. But because that didn't work out, now we're kind of on the defensive. They draw. I'm so sorry. They'll set their Dust Tornado. They'll have Ambusher swing in for 1,700, and we will flip Offerings. We could wait. We could get the draw, but we don't feel like taking the damage. We might as well stay on the offensive here. Get rid of the monster once and for all. We have Swordswoman. We have Kunai. We feel we don't need the draw necessarily. They'll pass, and we'll summon our Swordswoman. We'll have it swing in for 1500, and we'll pass turn. We'll draw into Rite of Spirit, but they've kind of locked themselves. They have a Dust Tornado, Kunai, and Offerings to the Doomed. They check their graveyard. They feel Rite of Spirit's probably necessary to come down, so they're going to YOLO the Dust Tornado on the back row. Little risky, because definitely with Heirloom and to a much more bigger extent, Village, even though Heirloom's not going to be a problem because you have the Offerings, but if I have Village and Offerings pops a monster, I'm getting another monster. So, little risky to use this, but I definitely agree with this over YOLOing this to set that Rite of Spirit. Plus, now they don't get stuck on using this early so that they can't draw for the future. Keeping this as long as possible, as long as you don't need it, is good, because that way you can keep drawing. But then once you feel you're in a situation where you no longer can wait, then you spring this on your opponent. So I'm going to set the Rite of Spirit, they're going to pass. We're going to draw a Dust Tornado. We're going to use Switcheroo's effect, Shuffle, and we draw Dust Tornado. So I guess we'll set Dust Tornado. We'll have Swordswoman swing in here for 1500. They're going to Rite of Spirit and bring back the Ambusher. Again, don't need to use the Offerings to the Doomed until there are no other options left. They ask for us to replay. We obviously say no, and we'll pass. They draw an Ambusher. They summon an Ambusher. We don't have a Floodgate. We have a Dust Tornado. They're going to swing. We're going to bluff the anything before damage step question. And they say no. And that sucks for us. They take the 200, but our monster is destroyed. And we will gracefully take 1700 to the face. We draw another Swordswoman. It's as if we've seen this before. I could set it, but let's do a little bit of damage. Hopefully it'll pay off in the future. They draw Kunai. They set Kunai. They battle phase. They swing. We don't even ask the question this time, because why? They take 200. We take 17. What do we top tick, boys? It's not Offerings to the Doomed. It's a Sage. We're going to normal summon. Just kidding. We're going to set the Sage. And we're going to hope to pray to everything that they think it's maybe a Blast Sphere. And then we YOLO flip Dust Tornado, because why not? Let's just hit the middle card. Alright, it was Kunai. Whatever. Yeah, that sounds like game to me. They flipped the Kunai just cause if it has 2000 defense, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's game. That's game in a nutshell. So, long story short, my takeaway: Amazon's still pretty cool, but it has a lot of requirements. It always had the same requirements, but now there are cards like this that just out those requirements completely. And Gravekeepers is still an interesting deck. I don't know if it needs to rely on Kunai, but I guess I get that Kunai is still really good. Man, you remember, guys, remember the days that Windstorm was a card? Windstorm? But yeah, definitely can see why this card is really good. Both the games it was used, it was very relevant. Inner Conflict is definitely going to be a skill to be reckoned with for the future. And as far as Amazons go, I mean, hey, there's still a lot of ways you can play this deck. You can play the tribal build. You can play, you can mix it with some other stuff. Definitely not limited on options, to say the least. So let's take a quick look at both decks real quick. For Amazons, I was playing 2 Trainee, 3 Sage, 3 Swordswoman, 2 Village, 3 Heirloom, 1 Offerings of the Doomed, 3 Kunai with Chain, 2 Floodgate Trap Hole, and 2 Dust Tornado. My numbers real quick. I think this card's just really solid. I think it's always been really solid. So I like it as a 2 of. This card's ridiculous. This card's ridiculous. No need to explain those. 3 Village Clogs, so I have no problem with 2. 3 Heirloom is insane. This card is also insane. You see me play this and everything, so. Kunai, I just feel like the deck still needs this. It's good as a double option to switch something to defense, but also the boost is really nice. Double Floodgate in the main. This is situational. I've noticed this deck can handle itself even without the Floodgates a lot, so maybe I'd side these in the future. Maybe just main a 3rd Dust Tornado and call it a day. I'm not sure. The side deck I was playing the 1 Santa Claus, because I feel like you play this and everything right now. The 2nd Offerings, because I really, really like this card. Spell Shattering Arrow for a lot of things, the mirror match included, but obviously I'm not going to see too much of that. Like I said, the format's really open, but I like this against Burn a lot. Skill Successor, I never actually got to play this in the match today, but I do really like this card, giving a 400 boost to either any of these, even without this boost, but with this boost there's 600, and then like an 800 boost later on, plus this can be 1,000. On something like Sage and Trainee, that's insane. So I think this card's really good in this deck. The Third Dust and Waking the Dragon, of course. Moving on to Gravekeepers. We were playing the 1 Oracle, triple Ambusher, triple Recruiter, the 1 Spear Soldier, even though we never saw it. The 2 Allure of Darkness. I'm still debating on this. This deck's really consistent without this card, and sometimes I've just seen this card banish things that I've needed. So, I don't know. The 1 Offerings to the Doomed, 3 Red Spirit, 3 Kunai with Chain, 2 Floodgate, 2 Dust Tornado. I don't feel like any of the numbers really need too much of an explanation. I would definitely cut this down to 2 in the future. Probably cut this to 1. But other than that, it's pretty good. 1 Santa Claus, of course, the 2nd Offerings, another Spell Shattering, the 3rd Dust Tornado, Ready for Intercepting, I still think is pretty good, especially in this deck, because you can use it against something like Amazons or Relinquished or something of that nature, and then of course the 1 Waking the Dragon as well. But guys, those are just my thoughts. What did you think? Please leave comments down below as to how you actually would go about making both Amazons and Gravekeepers going into the new format. Like, subscribe as always, hit that notification bell to get all of our latest updates, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Yu-Gi Bros out.